So the remaster is out with Player Core and GM Core, and Paizo has just released on November 15th all the errata for those books, as well as a bunch of other books that you might have that allow you to kind of do some things while you're waiting for the next core books to come out. Now, we are only going to cover GM Core in this one. I've already done Player Core, and we'll be doing the other books as well. This was part of a live stream that I did that kind of took a big chunk of time, so I thought it'd be better if I kind of parse this out into smaller books and release them as little videos. That way you can only pay attention to the books that you have or to the things that you're interested in. Once again, you might not be interested in the Magus or the Psychic, so you wouldn't necessarily want to go to those books. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get into GM Core. So my name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. So GM Core Errata is much smaller. Once again, for this, I did a review of this book, and once again, they didn't make a lot of changes in GM Core. GM Core, they really just combined the two books together. By that, I mean the Old Player's Handbook, Game Mastery section, and the Game Mastery Guide. They just kind of smushed them together in one big book without a ton of changes. But there are some great ones there, including Shield Runes. But let's go ahead and start looking at some of the changes for GM Core. GM Core 226. Fortification. In the fortification rune description, replace the strength required to reduce its penalties by 2 with the strength modifier required to reduce its penalties by 1. The reason why they're doing that is because it's no longer, it has to do with actually the second part here, the strength modifier, because we're no longer using ability scores, we're using attributes. So that's basically what they're talking about. You have the modifiers, which you're going to be using. And you're going to see that a lot through some of these smaller changes. Is it's just going to be verbiage changes to make sense with the way the core uses new wording to get away from the OGL and the SRD from before. Then we'll go to page 230. Like I said, if I am going too quick, once again, please let me know and I will definitely slow it down a little bit. There's just a lot. Yes. Yeah, there is, especially when they get, so you're talking about illusionary wall. So an illusionary wall, you know, they did have the spell components and they had somatic, auditory, all those other kind of things. Those have gone away and now you just have to deal with the traits. So if the trait says it's something like the manipulate trait for ventriloquism, then it is. If the trait doesn't say something like subtle, then it isn't. But once again, if the game isn't fun, house rule it. And if your GM allows it, or if you're the GM and you want your players to play that way, then you do it that way. Let's go ahead and get to Electric Eelskin. So Electric Eelskin, activation entry lists a spell attack modifier, but the Thunderstrike spell it unleashes isn't an attack spell and requires a saving throw. So you need to replace spell attack modifier of +8/19 with a DC of 29. So once again, it is not an attack, so it doesn't have a spell attack modifier. And if this was correct, then technically it should have the attack trait. And it doesn't. And the errata says it doesn't, so we're all good there. Let's go ahead and go to page 248. 248, through all poisons, and I'm going to gloss over a bunch of these because it's for all poisons, and what they're basically saying is through all poisons, replace all instances of interact with manipulate. It's just a verbiage change, but on every single poison under activate, one action, it says interact. Blackadder Venom, activate, interact. Black Lotus extract, single action, interact. It goes through all the poisons. The interact needs to be changed with manipulate. Because I guess technically if you did it as it was written, you'd have Giant Centipede Venom activate 2 actions and then interact, which is an action. You technically would use all your actions up, but manipulate, you don't actually use an action to manipulate. I'm always the GM, a blessing and a curse. Very true. I like doing both. Matter of fact, I only GM 1 game and I play in 2. But yeah, being the forever GM can be kind of a pain. Sometimes it's fun to just play. But back to poisons, you go through every single one of the poisons and change that interact to manipulate so you aren't wasting an action if you were to play this rules as written. 255, 256. So on page 255, 256, we have penetrating ammunition. In penetrating ammunition's activate entry, replace interact with manipulate. Same type of thing. If you were to do activate, single action, and then interact is another action. So that would technically be two actions if you were doing very strictly rules as written. But the way that this is set up, now interact is manipulate. Manipulate doesn't require an action. Specifically, it's more of a trait. Then we go to page 262. So on page 262, yeah, this is kind of funny. So Magic Scroll, they basically put this here plus overcharge. They did not intend anybody to overcharge a spell, because how could you reuse a spell that you've already cast? So General Magic Scroll or Magic Scroll stat block erroneously includes a frequency. We didn't intend for you to overcharge your spell. So replace frequency once per day plus overcharge with effect. And then page 276. On Skeleton Key. Skeleton Key's activation entry mentions a spell that doesn't exist. And that's because Breach does not exist. The spell is called Knock. So replace the key cast Breach with the key cast Knock. And that would be right here. So the spell you're going to be looking for when you do Skeleton Key is it casts Knock. Let me go to page 314. Page 314, Flare-Bolt Gift Activation requires a spell attack roll with your relic, so it should have the attack trait, which it does not right here. Therefore, it is going to count for your multiple attack penalty. So add attack before concentrate in the parentheses. So you're supposed to include attack there. And then we have Grappling Vine Gift Activation on 317. Grappling Vine requires an attack roll with your relic, so it should have the attack trait. Add attack before manipulate in the parentheses. So you should be adding attack right here. Once again, attack, so it's going to affect your multiple attack penalty. And that is GM Core. Once again, that one only took about 7 minutes to go through, so I'm pretty happy about that. Now, I do hope you liked this roundup of all the errata for GM Core. This was a much smaller bit of errata than it was for the player core, but still, there was some good stuff in there. So I do hope you like this, and if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.